Hey, everybody. Welcome into the Toddfox show here on the Halos in the Infield Network. And I'm pleasured to be joined by the one, the only, the great Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Lee, how are you doing, sir?
Todd, nice to be with you again. And now we're ready for pennant race baseball as we march into the final 2 months of the baseball season. We're at the start of the season. We've now roared through the trading deadline, and the rosters are different than they were opening day and really different from when they were midseason. So we got 50 games to play, and boy, there's a ton of teams in the hunt right now for playoff spots. And we do have a lot of topics on the table, don't we?
Yeah, we sure do. And before we get to that, I got to let our fans know where they can get a hold of you. Lee, will you mind telling our fans?
I'm everywhere. An exclamation point. No, I did sports talk radio here in Southern California for 28 years, and that included an awful lot of stuff up in Orange County, covering the Angels, covering the Anaheim Ducks, etc. Uh, I do a podcast Mondays and Thursdays. It's up on my YouTube channel. So when you're done watching this, sample what I do on the YouTube channel, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Very simple there. I have a website, leehacksawhamilton.com. I write on it every day of the week. I guarantee you won't find the volume of information that I write anywhere else on any other sports website or in your daily newspaper. You check it out first thing every morning. You give me 5 minutes. I'll tell you everything there is in the world of sports. So we invite you to share, subscribe, follow. It's absolutely free, and it's the new landscape that we're in. I did talk show radio for a long time, and now obviously as things have changed, we've ventured off into new things, and the podcast has just exploded. And I packaged the podcast like I did my sports talk shows on Extra 690 and the Mighty 1090, which is a lot of topics on the table. And then we do something unique. We do a thing called Fans Forum when the podcast is over. So we give Angel fans and fans in Orange County and Los Angeles, and obviously everybody in San Diego, the chance to join us in the Fans Forum chat box too. So we're figuring it out as we go, and we're doing pretty well at it.
He sure is. The website is banging right now. You got all kinds of topics, like he said. And if you want to get into any sport, Lee covers it. But today we are covering baseball. And like Lee says, we're 112 games in, 50 to go, coming down the stretch. First topic on the table I wanted to get to, Lee, is your impressions on all three Southern California teams, on how they did, in your opinion, one man's opinion, on how they did in the trade deadline.
Or how they did not do at the trade deadline.
There you go.
Most amazing thing to me, starting with the Arizona-Seattle trade of Josh Naylor, which was a week prior to the trading deadline, we had a total of 70 trades made in baseball over about a 6-day span. I mean, it was unbelievable how everybody who was in the pennant race decided they were going for it. And there were key acquisitions everywhere. I mean, it's an absolutely phenomenal number of player transactions. In terms of what's happened here and the teams around us, the San Diego Padres won the trading deadline, but they paid an unbelievable price to do this. The Padres pulled off 5 trades in a 7-hour span leading up to the 3 p.m. deadline a week ago on Thursday. Think about that, 5 trades in 7 hours. Now, they spent months laying all the groundwork, and they were juggling a lot of balls in the final hours in terms of I'd make this trade in Washington. That did not work out, so I'll go back to the Athletics and we'll make that transaction because the Washington deal did not work. They tried to pull the trigger on something significant in Boston. It fell apart at the end. Padres instead, and with 13 minutes to go on the clock, went back to Baltimore and executed a trade there. But they paid an unbelievable price. They traded away the whole farm system again. They traded away 14 players in the 5 transactions. They brought 6 guys back. But what they did was, and A.J. Preller said it succinctly, we made what we felt were impact trades because it was a flawed baseball team that was hanging on for dear life in the chase with the Dodgers in the National League West. And they turned around and they made transactions to fill their holes, fill their hole in left field, fill their hole maybe at designated hitter, fill their hole, get another starting pitcher. They added another relief pitcher, which is a real stunner, got a catcher. And at the same time, they gave themselves some insurance policies because they're going to have some free agent pitchers who are going to leave at the end of this season. Now they got some guys to replace them. But I mean, the wheeling and dealing that AJ Preller has done on an annual basis is amazing. And um, everybody, says the guy's a genius. A lot of guys say he's a bit of a lunatic. He's too much gunslinger. He buys on credit cards. Now, I think right now he has positioned the Padres to be the best team in the National League West. Now, that's on paper. You have to do it on the field. But Todd, they're going to play the Dodgers 6 times in about 12 days at the end of August, starting August 15th. And that might well decide everything in the National League West.
And speaking of the Padres, I got to give you major credit, because in the offseason, when we talked before the season started, you were very adamant that this was going to be the case, that the Padres were going to go all in, mortgage the farm system. I mean, everything pretty much except the actual players. You called it, Lee.
Well, the other piece of the equation, and it's not gotten a lot of coverage down here, when I configured all the salaries in the aftermath of the 6 guys they brought in, I said, gee, they've taken on $4.7 million more on a payroll that was already at $211 million. And it had been insinuated to me that they had told AJ Preller, you're not adding unless you're subtracting. Then I found out 48 hours later that he got teams to pay a large chunk of the salaries of the guys they were bringing in, which is kind of different. He did the same thing a year ago when he got Luis Ariz from Miami, and Miami paid virtually all of Ariz's salary last year. And at the end of the day, he added 6 guys, and he only took on $1.1 million in salaries because he had these other teams buy some of the contracts of the players they were trading away. Now, indirectly, he paid a steep price because he had to keep loading more prospects into the transactions to get these other teams to go ahead and buy into the contract. So at the end of the day, he's bought on a credit card again. This roster is loaded, Todd. They're ready to go chase the Dodgers down. They think they're going to beat the Dodgers this year after last year choking it away in the postseason. The only negative, and if I raise this red flag, and I've done it before, is that every time you trade the farm system away, and he's traded the farm system away 4 times in 11 years, what you're doing is you're dealing to get players to help you immediately. But one day this credit card bill comes due, and one day they're going to wake up with a much older Manny Machado, a really aged Xander Bogaerts, a plus 40-year-old Yu Darvish with a history of elbow problems, and a whole series of other guys. They got a lot of mileage on them, and they're going to be stuck with contracts till guys are 42 and 44, and they won't have anything in the farm system at all. So the ideology is we're going to win now. They got to get to a World Series. Their window is really short in San Diego. It has to happen, I think, this year or next year, because all these guys are going to be 36 and 38 or 42, and you won't have anybody in the farm system to replace them because you just traded the farm system away. So I think the Padres helped themselves a great deal. Is it a massive gamble? Yeah, I think it is. But at the end of the day, they're trying to win a World Series. And they've never won a World Series before. And they came damn close against the Dodgers last year before they choked it away in that critical playoff series when they had the 2-1 lead. And they got beat on a bullpen day, and they wound up going 24 innings in a row without scoring a run. So they put the foundation in place, Todd. They're ready. Now they got to go do it on the field. It's fascinating. Off the field, Todd, they're going to set another attendance record for a 3rd year in a row. They're going to They're going to bust through 3.3 million fans in San Diego. Petco Park is a destination point. It's a place to be. The prices they're charging are staggering. They just announced tonight they're raising their ticket prices 7% for next year. It's the 5th straight year. Ticket prices have rocketed. Get this, since 2022, when they started this push, they've raised their ticket prices 57% combined since 2022, and they've yet to get to the World Series. So that's where we are right now. Excited for the final 2 months of the season. I think it's a massive gamble, but that's who this guy is. And we always argue about currency. Well, the Dodger currency is Dodger dollars and their budget and their payroll and all that. The Padre currency is everybody in the farm system because they trade everybody away. That's a long answer to your first question, but that's what happened in San Diego.
Well, I got one more before we move on to the next one, if you don't mind, Lee. And that you brought up the fans. We went down there for the San Diego Angels series. It was great fan support there by the Padres, packed house, great vibe. But with everything you've said, obviously being down there, working close with the fans down there as well as all the fans around the world, but you got a real close pulse to the Padre fandom. How are they feeling about the fact that you just said that they're mortgaging their future? They've got a small window. I mean, are these fans going to be more nervous now in the postseason, like hanging on every pitch because they know that they can't afford to lose?
No, because the fans have not reacted negatively at all to all the things Preller has done. They've become a real strong playoff team. I mean,
Mhm.
we had the close finish against the Dodgers last year. Prior to that, years prior, they were in the National League Championship Series before they got out homered by the Philadelphia Phillies. So they've been close. They think all these impact guys they just traded for put them over the top. Now, people a little bit aghast that they traded Leonardo DeVries, the 18-year-old shortstop who has got superstar written all over him. And as I say, he's only 18 and he's been in the organization 2 years already, because that looked like that was untouchable. But this is AJ Preller. His currency are his draft picks and the international free agents, and he's going to bargain them out of here to get the best deals he can. So it's a fascinating way to do business. It's unorthodox. There's a lot of gunslinger in this guy. He
Mhm.
doesn't care about the criticism. He only cares about the end result. Well, the end result is you better get to a World Series. It's got to happen pretty quick.
Okay. All right. And well, that'll move me into the next one. And I know Angel fans, we're going to get to the Angels here, but I want to touch on the Dodgers with you, Lee, if it's okay. I want to transition into them because a lot of people thought they would be much more active. All those trades we were talking about, a lot of people thought the Dodgers would be a part of that big push with all those trades happening. It really wasn't. They made some moves, but not the big juicy ones that they normally do. And do you think with what the Padres did and how the Dodgers have you been talking about it all season, how they've been winning despite the injuries in the rotation and the bullpen? Do you think the Dodgers, or do you think the Padres can catch the Dodgers first off this time? And second, do you think the Dodgers did enough or they missed out on opportunities to further their success?
I don't understand the Dodgers' philosophy wrapped around the trade deadline. Dodger dollars can buy them anything they want. They have the biggest payroll in Major League Baseball. So if you add on to the payroll, so be it. You have the resources and the wherewithal. You're going to draw another 4 million because you're a first place team. But now they have to be concerned because at one point weeks ago, Todd, it was a 9-game lead.
Yeah.
That sucker is now down to 3.
Mhm.
And now you've got a Padre team that's reloaded the gun with all these bullets, the quote impact players that Preller got. And the Dodgers' response is, well, our stars are going to rally us back. Well, you got Mookie Betts hitting 229 and the worst season of his life.
Yeah.
You've got age and you got injury to super utility guys like Tommy Edman. Obviously, the pitching staff has had enormous problems with injuries. Now, they've got some back. They're going to think they're going to get more back. But when you get into short series, do you have enough pitching if you don't have the hitting that Dodgers have had in years gone by? So there's still, to me, there's some question marks. Is Otani going to be more than a 4-inning pitcher the final 2 months per start for the rest of the season? How long does Kershaw hold up before the innings catch up to him? Now, they say they're going to stay on a 6-man rotation. Snell looked dazzling first start in Tampa Bay, got beat on 2 cheap home runs. But at the end of the day, we know Snell can be an enigma. He can be good, and then he can be really erratic, and he can become a 5-inning pitcher, which is what he was in San Diego for a long time. Glass now looks fabulous right now. But, he's so big and so long, his mechanics can get out of sync. And we've seen multiple times his body starts to have health problems when his
Yeah.
mechanics get out of sync. Now, his last 3 starts, I think, have really been impressive. Yamamoto, as long as they can keep him on a 6-day window, that's cool. I think he looks really dynamic again. I don't know where we're going to see Sasaki. He said today he thinks in the month of September he'll be ready because his shoulder is completely healed. But He's got mechanical things that they're trying to rearrange. So anytime you're changing something out of the regimen of the way he threw in Japan and started, and then what he did at the beginning of the season, when you ask him to make changes and stay with those changes, might not be the same pitcher. And are we going to be experimenting in critical games in September with Sasaki? And obviously, the bullpen just is not healthy. I mean, Dodgers, I thought last year it was staggering. The Dodgers had so many players on the disabled list. They've had 20 pitchers on the DL this season already. So that's a summary of where they are, which leads me to my point. You got all these resources, including Dodger dollars. You've got all these young players at AAA Oklahoma City and down at AA. You've got all these good young pitchers. You could have packaged a pitcher like they did with Dustin May. You could have packaged Landon Knack. You could have packaged any of the AA outfielders. They got 4 really good players at AA. You could have packaged those guys and gone to get a closer, or you could have gone to get Jaron Duran out of Boston. I would have sworn going into the trade deadline show I did last Thursday, Todd, that they were going to come out with either a third baseman because of the Muncy injury, or they were going to come out with an outfielder like Duran or like Steve Kwan out of Cleveland because they had the assets and the resources to do it, and they didn't do it. And I'm sorry, I just don't think that Brock Stewart is a difference maker, and I just don't think that the other transaction they made is really going to change things. So look over your shoulder, look in your rearview mirror. Here comes a guy wearing brown and gold, a Friar, and they look like they're loaded. And the Dodgers are wishing and hoping that Mookie won't hit 229 over the final 2 months of the season, and no other pitcher is going to break down. I think the inertia at the deadline, to me, was maybe one of the stunning storylines, in addition to the Padres trading the whole world away again. But the Dodgers' decision not to go for it or add to it, when Andrew Friedman and Brandon Gomes have done it each of the last 3 or 4 years, and those guys they brought in, the Flahertys of the world, etc., they were really difference makers just a year ago, and the year prior to that was Scherzer. So the way they came to the decision, I thought odd, because they really did have a lot of resources to use to go get the right guy, and they didn't do it.
Absolutely. Great points, Lee. And another follow up I have on the Dodgers, real quick, if I could. I know you mentioned those other pitchers, the 6-man rotation. If everybody can stay healthy, that being the biggest word there is if. But in all actuality, I mean, can you really depend on Otani to be one of those 6 or one of those 5 even? What are your thoughts about possibly, since they weren't able to go out there because Clase got, nicked with the not the PEDs, the gambling. And, I know the Dodgers were talking about possibly getting him, but what do you think if the Dodgers were to move Otani in as closer if he can't go prolonged innings?
Well, it's a little radical, because the other factor is, remember, Otani is one of the greatest hitters in modern day baseball. And if you put stress on him that he has to be a pitcher and on call every day, that takes away from all of his preparation to be the leadoff hitter or the second guy in the batting order. And I don't think they want to do that. Since June 1st, when they ramped up all his rehab to get ready for pitching, his offensive statistics have really tailed off. I mean, at one point he was hitting 229 also for like a month and a half. Now he started to hit more home runs again. So to answer your question, no. Let him be a once-a-week starting pitcher. Let him be your designated hitter 7 days a week, and just keep that thing intact. They're going to need people aside from Otani to help them hold off the guy in the rearview mirror.
Okay, sounds good. Now, Lee, I have to do this. We have to move on to our Angels, and I'm ready. I'm ready for the backlash, because I heard it all week. Were you shocked they didn't go either way? Because I know you had talked about it in the offseason. You were like, if the Angels aren't where they're supposed to be, because you didn't pick them as a playoff team, which I knew most of us did too. We figured, if we can get to 500, we'd be happy. But you said, they could make some additions by subtractions, or, they could make some moves for the future. And I was all for that, Lee. I thought you had nailed all the other ones. I thought, okay, the Angels are going to do what Lee said. What happened?
Well, first of all, the phrases that were used coming out of the trade deadline were Padres impact players, Dodgers stars will rally us. And the Angels general manager, Permanesian, used the insightful comment, we wanted to grow this core and keep it together. And I understand that. As we're sitting here marching to the middle of August, these guys are trying to claw their way to 500 and get above 500. They've had a decent season considering so many new components and considering the black injury cloud just never blew out of Anaheim Stadium. So at the end of the day, for them to be close to 500, that's a hell of a lot better than 99 losses from a year ago. But that being said, trade deadline, who are you going to trade? Who wants what you've got? You're not going to trade any of the young guys. You're not trading the shortstop. You're not trading the first baseman. You're not trading the catcher. Kikuchi, I think, has had as good a season as he can with very minimal run support. So there really wasn't a lot there that was tradable. Yeah, you could dispose of Kenley Jansen, and I don't know if the Angels or Dodgers ever really had any dialogue about doing that. Jansen would have been a nice little rental upgrade to go back to Dodger Stadium because he's had a decent season. Maybe you could have rid yourself and even paid off the Tyler Anderson contract for somebody to take him, and maybe he'd pitch a little bit better. What's he got? 2 wins, 3 wins this season, which is staggering small amount for a guy knocking down $15 million per season. Just having the same pitcher, but that might be a byproduct of just having a lot of run support. Those were the only guys I thought that they could have traded, because you're not trading anybody else, and obviously they did not want to ask Trout. Trout did not want to accept a trade, although I think, I was told Trout to the Mets, Trout to Philadelphia made a hell of a lot of sense for both teams. But Mike's been very loyal, and so be it. Of course, Mike's also been very hurt for a couple of years in a row. So Perry just didn't have a lot of currency to use himself. He wouldn't have gotten a big return on Tyler Anderson unless you're just getting prospects. If you get one of the Dodger young pitchers or one of those AA outfielders that the Dodgers have, and you're sending them Kenley Jansen, that probably turns out to be win-win. But he didn't have very much else out there. What I'm hoping that, as we go to the off season, and we'll be talking again, I'm sure, I'm hoping that the Rendon era is over.
Yep.
That money will be reinvested to quality younger free agents who come in here and just add veteran, decent ball players to what's a pretty good young core. Not a playoff team, but a pretty good young core. And if you can build the right way with the right acquisitions, then you make yourself better. Last winter it was all these rentals. At the end of the day, Kyle Hendricks has given him everything an aging Kyle Hendricks can give him. It's 5 or 6 wins. Soler has been Soler, an occasional home run, but dude's hitting 218. Odell has finally had a good season, but is Joe Odell going to continue to be this type of player? If he hits 250 with 20 pops, that's good. But if he reverts back and hits 190 again, that's not good. So they just don't have enough at this point in time, but hopefully they'll have some budgetary space for good free agent acquisitions. It won't be a megastar, but there's good players out there. You can get good players to come in with good young players that you've got who, to me, the unsung phrase is grit. This team has showed such grit through all the adversity they've had on the roster, the loss of Ron Washington with his personal problems. So, I'm not going to say the arrow's pointed up, but obviously they're not going to lose 99 games either. So I'd say my gut feel is positive about what the Angels have done so far, but they're still a long ways away from being really special.
Okay, I can accept that. I mean, anything positive from last year, I'll take, Lee. One other question on the Angels, because we hadn't talked since the draft either, and I wanted to get your thoughts because I think we all collectively freaked out when Brennan was taken with a second pick, and he was projected 18. But the more and more I researched the guy, and the more we talked to a scout that scouted him, I feel better about it. Lee, do you feel the same way about the Angels' first-round pick?
I was a little bit surprised because obviously the kid from Tennessee, the pitcher, the kid from LSU, the pitcher, they had more notoriety. But this kid's big, this kid's physical, this kid has not had arm problems, this kid has taken the ball and pitched, and the kid's resilient. I mean, what he came through personally with the cancer death in his family, and he stayed in school, etc. So, I mean, I was really impressed. Only time will tell, but he is big, and they can build on that 6'5" frame. The other guys are flamethrowers, but sometimes you can't add a lot of weight to the left-handers. This guy, I think's got the physique that they can add more things to him. But so I praise the kid because the kid went through a lot of adversity, and yet the kid was really good. And the Angels obviously have seen a lot of intangibles, I think, in the UCSB right-hander. But it opened my eyes. I said, wow. But I wasn't going to condemn him because I'd known about the kid and I'd followed the kid, etc. So it's hopefully it'll work out and he'll be on a faster track. I am hoping. They've drafted so many pitchers. I think this past year, they drafted, I want to say 14 pitchers, or maybe it was 17.
It was 13.
13. Okay, I was close. So they drafted so many pitchers. I'm just hoping that this collection, the ones they drafted a year ago, Caden Dana gets here, because I keep thinking, well, that they believed in all these pitchers. Some of these guys have got to pan out. They haven't really arrived yet. So
yeah,
and I'm also hoping. I don't know the mystery of Reed Detmers, because there were flashes where you thought this guy's going to be your number one starter, and then he didn't do well, and then he got hurt, and now he's a setup guy, and he's getting some decent numbers this season. But he was supposed to be one of the marquee cornerstone guys of your rotation. I don't know that he was ever going to be Langston and Finley again, but so the jury is to me the jury's still out on a whole bunch of the guys starting. Obviously, Reed Detmers and starting with the kid pitcher Dana. Can they get there? And now you've added this really high number one pick. I don't know that he's going to be Paul Skeens immediately, but he's got some pretty good credentials coming out of Cal Santa Barbara.
Well, I'm glad you were able to sum that up for us, Lee, because, again, coming from me is one thing, but coming from you knowing the fact that you follow a lot of these minor leaguers and you're very on top of the draft, I think the Angels fans needed a little bit of that, the confirmation that it was a good pick, at least for now. So we appreciate that, Lee. And before you go, I know your time is valuable, and we got a couple more minutes left if you don't mind, but winners and losers, if you want to do it rapid fire, between the American League and National League, the teams that did their utmost to get themselves for that, last minute run to the playoffs and beyond, who did it best and who did it worst?
Seattle started it all, and Seattle got the first baseman Josh Naylor early, and they got Eugenio Suarez, the third baseman, late. And those are great additions to a lineup that was really lacking punch around Julio Rodriguez. And of course, they're 6 deep in the starting rotation. So Seattle's right there. Now Seattle's in a real dogfight with a kind of a surprising Houston team. But I'd say Seattle is number one. Philadelphia's got so much pop in the batting order at Citizens Bank Ballpark. Philadelphia's got great starting pitching. And Philadelphia's compiled a really good record when you understand that they've not had Aaron Nola for a whole bunch of the season. And, they think they're getting him back. And now they go out and they get what they have not had, which is a guy who throws heat, who's a really legitimate closer, getting that reliever out of Minnesota. So I got Philadelphia there. The Mets got 3 relievers. Halsley was really good in St. Louis, then really bad. Then he kind of resurrected his career this year. So the Mets have fixed the back end of their pitching staff. They really need health. They've had so many injury problems to the front end of that rotation, starting in spring training with Kodai Senga, and not having Sean Manaea for an extended period of time. I think that the Mets' 3 acquisitions are really good. Texas is finally healthy. In Texas, I'm waiting for the rest of Texas to come around and starting to hit. But Texas getting Merrill Kelly out of Arizona, he's got a lot of qualities in terms of being a trustworthy starter. I thought that was positive. And although they're public enemy number one, the Athletics, being the vagabonds that they are, they have stockpiled so much young talent, and they hit a lot of home runs. And now they just got all these guys from the Padres, led by the young shortstop DeVries. Now, if the A's can continue to grow their young pitching, by the time those guys get to Vegas, that might be a really good baseball team. So I just say off the top, that's my hot list there. In terms of the negatives, Yankees have got so many internal problems. I don't understand the lack of focus. I don't understand the lack of fundamentals. I don't understand the lack of leadership. It's like Aaron Boone has lost control of the clubhouse. The guys are playing terrible. It's like everybody's standing around waiting for Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton to save them. And I've never seen a modern-day major league team play so poorly defensively and just not have instincts. And then you add into that no Garrett Cole, and you add into that the back end of the bullpen is a mess. And they traded for 3 relievers and have already dumped one of the ones they just got in the trade last Thursday. saying Yankees are in utter chaos. Detroit brought 7 guys in. They brought 7 pitchers in because they need help around Tarek Skubal. But we'll see how many of these guys step up or whether these are just guys that Detroit's rented, but they did need starting pitching. They've really faded. I mean, went through a stretch. They lost, I think they were 1-12 just a couple of weeks ago. That's kind of hard to believe, but the young guys stopped hitting and the pitching wasn't getting people out. A little bit surprised Milwaukee didn't add any veterans. That's a stunner of a surprise team to me. I can't believe what I'm seeing in Milwaukee, but used to be just Christian Yelich against the world, and now they got Churio, and I mean they've got a lot of young guys. But I thought that's the kind of team you go get a veteran guy that is a rental on a 2-month contract that makes a difference in your everyday lineup or makes a difference in your pitching staff. Maybe the veteran is Brandon Woodruff, who was down for 2 years with the elbow surgeries because he was unbeaten. He's won all of his starts since he came off that DL, that's amazing. Most people don't see that from a guy coming off Tommy John. Boston, they've got so many young, talented people. I would have sworn that they were going to execute another trade. I mean, of course, they traded Devers to the Giants way back. But I would have thought Duran would have been trade bait to go get him a closer like Robert Suarez in San Diego. They did not want Dylan Cease because he's so highly erratic. But they played the prices right, and evidently they asked for the moon, and people said, no, we're not going to give you the moon. So that's why Boston did not make any deals. And it was sad to see Arizona sell off everybody. I mean, they sold off the 2 power bats. They sold off Merrill Kelly. They sold off one of their other starting pitchers. So, they may have a whole bunch of young guys that I haven't paid very much attention to. But I think when you were reviewed as a wild card team or maybe a team that could be in the National League West, and then you get to this point because they were hammered by injuries early, and then you just start selling off contracts. To me, it's a bad sign to your fans that you're doing business that way. So that's who I thought was hot, and that's who I thought didn't do well, and that's who I thought had question marks still attached to him.
Well, I appreciate that, Lee, because the trade deadline, like you said, to start the show was amazing. A lot of us didn't come into it with when we did our trade deadline show. I didn't think it was going to be popping the way it was, but it was awesome. It was good entertainment. But Lee, I know you got to go, and I really appreciate the extra time you gave us here today. We always love checking in with you. And again, for the best content, since I was a kid, I was listening to Lee. He would tell me stuff that ESPN wouldn't say. He touched on everything, every kind of sport, boxing, soccer, you name it. He got into it. He gave you everything that was going on that particular day. So he's still doing it. So go to leehacksaw.com where you can find all his work. And he does a lot of writing, like he said, and also on his YouTube pages. He has some great shorts and that will get you into watching episodes because the man has great takes and good back and forth with his co-host.
Listen, it proves one thing. If you do it long enough like I've done it, you should get bloody good at it too. So yes, we are good. But it's leehacksawhamilton.com for the website, and just go to YouTube, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Todd, good to talk to you. We'll do this again. We'll see what it looks like come playoff time.
Hey, I would love to, and I'm looking forward to it, sir. You have a good one.
My pleasure. Thanks for the invitation. Talk to you again.
Anytime.